Good evening and welcome to this program. This is the Limelight and my name is Sima Apollo. Now, following the release of primary leaving examination results last week, the selection process for new entrants in the secondary has also been completed today, and we have to look back at the performance in relation to the curriculum. And we also must know that this is the first lot that will be using the new competence-based curriculum, which is now on board. And to internalize this and other issues, I will need to connect with Calais Santos. And Calais Santos is a specialist for primary education at Uganda National Curriculum Development Center. Welcome to the program, and let's go straight. You need to tell us relating to the performance of our pupils in the recently released PLE examination results. Tell us what it means in relation to the new curriculum.
Yes, thank you very much, the moderator and our listeners. I want to say this is a good opportunity for us to interact with the members of the public. NCDC is your own institution. It is a critical institution that is for the country, and therefore we need to communicate with the people and receive feedback from the people about our own operations here. So for that, I want to thank you very much. The storm is beginning to settle down about the PLE issues. However, looking at the bigger picture, we have a big task. A big task why? Let alone the 4s, the 6s, the 10s, aggregates that people have obtained. If you look back, how many of these 825,000 joined P1 in 2015? The current completion rate for the country is for primary is about 60%. So that means approximately 1.29 million learners joined P1. Now, if 1,290,000 learners joined P1 and you only have about 825,000 of them completing P7, so the first critical challenge for this system is, where are the 40%? Now, when you come back again to the 825,000 who sat, there are those, first of all, those who registered. There are those who failed to sit the papers. There are about, I think, 20,000. Now, where are these people? It means in term 1, 2022, they were there. But in term 3, they were not there. Where are they? The second critical group is, if you look at those who sat, about 97,000 of them got scores that will not allow them to be graded. In other words, time was wasted. The resources were invested, but we didn't get the output that we expected of the system. And if you add the number of the absentees to the number of those who failed to get a mark that warrants them to be graded, it comes to about 115,000. So if you consider 115,000 as a fraction of those who sat, that is the 825, it's quite significant. So that's why I was saying, before we look at how many got aggregate 4, how many got aggregate 5, let us first look at the bigger picture. Now, these are all citizens that are going to be within the society. What is the fate of these people? Now, from the statistics, we have about a 60.6 transition rate. In other words, of these 825,000 who sit PLE, about 60.6% will go to senior 1. It means there's another number of about 39.5 who will also remain here. I may say they may be unlucky to progress to senior 1, or to be referred to as the transition. They may fail to transit to senior 1. These are critical challenges for the management of the country, for the education system of this country. Because we normally say when the doctor makes a mistake, the mistake is buried. When the vet doctor makes a mistake, the animal dies and may be eaten. But for the teacher or for the education system, when a mistake is made, the mistake comes back into the society and lives with you, the teacher. So in other words, we are having a population that is significant, that failed to complete the basic primary level, or that failed to transit into secondary. Now that's where the first level of the challenge is. However, back to your question, the question was, what is in stock for the 60.6% of the 825 who may be lucky to go to senior 1? I want to say there are situations when during selection of learners to join senior 1, we only use one item, that is the aggregate. However, a curriculum goes beyond the 4s and the 5s, because people always say, you see, so and so failed, so and so did not perform very well, but they are only looking at the score this person obtained in an examination of 2 hours and 15 minutes. And at times when we say so and so got 0, the question is it true that within all the 7 years this person failed to learn anything? You will realize critically this person learned. So as people are considering who goes to which secondary school, unfortunately many of the stakeholders only look at the aggregate. We don't look at whether this child is able to lead a prayer. We don't look at whether this child can socialize well with others. We don't look at the morals of this child. We don't look at the other skills of this child. Actually, a big chunk of this curriculum of primary is not assessed at the end of the 7 years. So, coming back to the point of what awaits these people when they go to senior
Mr.
1,
Santos,
I want to make one
whatever you're saying,
this is not the first
isn't
set.
it related to the curriculum?
Yes.
Isn't it related to the curriculum?
Thank you very much. It's exactly related to the curriculum. But now when you come to the assessment of this curriculum, because of some technical and logistical challenges, the curriculum is not assessed in totality. For example, when you teach a child how to grow cabbages, how to grow tomatoes, when it comes to the end of cycle examination, that practical skill is not assessed. When you teach children about morals, respect, obedience, humility, all this, the way the primary leaving examination is managed, it doesn't assess this. So that's why I'm saying, at times when we look at only the aggregate to see who qualifies to go to the next class, we miss a big chunk of a holistic child. That was the critical thing I wanted to bring out. And thank you for that. So now coming back to the new lower secondary curriculum, I want to make it clear that this is not the first set. The first set that started on the new lower curriculum is now going to senior 3. And they are getting ready, first of all, for the assessment of the practical competencies that will be done by the Directorate of Industrial Training, DIT. And that is one way in which we're trying to look back and say, where was the gap? See, the gap was in the assessment of the practical competencies. How do we do this right? So the lower secondary curriculum has already started addressing some of this practically. So we are going to see in this year, there's going to be assessment of the learners' practical skills in catering, in agriculture, in what, all these will be done by DIT. So there already they are, in senior 2 going to senior 3. So this set that we are pushing to secondary as of now is simply going to join into the system. And the beauty about it is that they are joining a curriculum that has already been tried for 2 years. In other words, they're going to get a little smoother landing as compared to the pioneers who are now in senior 3. So that was the first thing I want to put right. The second one is, people are differently skilled, and we need to understand that. There are people who are very good in academic issues. There are others who are very good in practical issues. We're talking about the psychomotor domain. There are people, unfortunately, as I said, when we are doing our assessment at primary, using the current policy, the current assessment guidelines, it doesn't factor in the practical aspects. And talking about the lower secondary, that has already been factored in, because we're going to have a continuous assessment which contributes to the ultimate score that a child is going to get at the end of senior 4, let alone the other practical skills that will be tested and certified in senior 3. Thank you very
Santos, from your submission, are you,
Yes.
are you reaffirming the fact that the problem may not be the curriculum per se, but the assessment system?
Not exactly, because the very close relationship between the curriculum and assessment system. Actually, those who say UNEB has done this, they don't understand the whole system. The whole curriculum with the guidelines of assessment are developed by National Curriculum Development Center. The role of UNEB is to implement the guidelines that have been set by UNEB. By National Curriculum Development Center. So if it comes to ownership of whatever is happening in the field, actually the first entity that needs to own this is we as National Curriculum Development Center. But what you also need to realize is that the curriculum we're implementing right now, these are curricula that were developed several years ago. For example, the current primary school's curriculum was rolled out in 2007. So we're talking about a curriculum that is close to 2007. This is 2023. We're talking about 16 years. So, and societal needs and systems keep changing, ideally after every 5 years. So in other words, we are dealing with the curriculum that, if I may say, is due for re-examination. That is why, actually starting from last year, NCDC initiated a process of evaluating this curriculum to ascertain its relevance in the current context. And if the findings are that we need to change 1 or 2 things, which probably may include the assessment, it will be done so that we're able to align this curriculum to the current needs of the society.
Well, if I may take you back shortly, Santos, you talked about around 115,000 students who did not make it anyway, who did not pass, who did not attain grades. And what is the fate of that big group in the whole setting?
The fate of this big group is it's complex to determine as of now. That is why when we talk of primary, we talk about basic education, because we understand that not every child may have may be fortunate enough, may be lucky enough to progress up to secondary, to progress up to university. That is why when we are packaging the primary curriculum, we try to make sure that it has a little bit of everything that this child may need to survive in case the child stops at P7. However, that aside, I want to thank many NGOs. Today we are talking about a number of NGOs, or we call them education partners, that support the education system through opportunities for adult.
All right, we still have Carlos Santos, and he is a specialist for education, primary education at Uganda National Curriculum Development Center, and we are looking at the performance of the primary living students who sat their exams last year in 2022, and looking at what awaits them as they progress to another level, and possibly looking at the whole primary education cycle. What does it mean? What what can we expect from that system? And Santos, you are back. You can continue from where we stopped, and you wind up on that submission.
One, the deliberate effort to package the primary curriculum with the assumption that there may be learners who may not be fortunate enough to progress after primary. In other words, what we have in primary should be able to help somebody survive or to earn a living in case the person stops at that level. If you look at the different contents in mathematics, social studies, science, religious education, physical education, art and craft, music education, all these are supposed to form a holistic person, so that in case such a person fails to progress to secondary, the person can be able to lead a responsible and productive life as a citizen. The second situation is we have other opportunities, especially through the education partners, that support communities, increase attainment of literacy and some practical competencies. And I want to thank these many education partners. Many of them are there in northern Uganda, in eastern, within the islands, Kalangala, even within the slum areas in these urban settings. These support these people so that they're able to use the skills that they obtained from the 7-year cycle, plus the other skills that can be added to them, and they move on. Also, we have the TVET wing that gets some of the products of primary, and they go through the craft institutions, the technical institutions. And we want to encourage people, not everything is about academic life, no. There are many situations where people acquire practical skills and they earn even a better living, and they are more productive, more responsible citizens than those who go through senior 4, senior 6 to university. I want to encourage people that there are a number of opportunities that are available to them after the completion of the primary cycle. Thank you.
And finally, as we prepare to wind up, let's talk about a system in primary school cycle where students were engaged and were given time to do what we usually use to refer to as handiwork. What happened? And anyway, you as a curriculum specialist, is this still possible? Is it possible to again engage these students at that lower level and possibly make them love working with their hands instead of cram work and waiting for tests?
Yeah, thank you very much. Not just at the lower primary level. I want to make this very clear. Actually, right now in lower secondary, we have practical subjects. Agriculture, we have art and design, you have nutrition, food and nutrition. The purpose is to go back to the basics. You find somebody out there by the roadside making chapatis, and he or she earns a living out of that. You find another person there doing some metal work, earns a living out of that. We used to make hoe handles, we used to make arrows, we used to make other metallic implements. But today you find that these have so much been neglected because of the excessive focus on the written and the theoretical examinations. Actually, if you go to the primary school's curriculum, those subjects exist, fully, well developed. There is art and craft, there is physical education, there is music, there is religious education. All these subjects are there. But when you come to the implementation, in most cases, teachers don't teach these subjects. What is their explanation? That these subjects are not examined at the end of primary 7. The purpose of these subjects in the curriculum is really not to pass them in examination. The purpose is to develop critical competencies, practical skills that can make these learners earn a living. But we have misunderstood the concept of assessment. It's like we learn so that we are assessed. No. The purpose of assessment is to check how much learning has taken place. That's very clear. You don't teach because it is going to be assessed. You're supposed to teach so that learning takes place. And once learning takes place, at the end of the cycle, we may want to know how much learning has taken place. And therefore,
Santos, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Yes. And we can only hope for the best. And yeah. I would recommend that possibly we should make also those practical subjects examinable, because possibly that could motivate learners to give them more time and possibly to perform better in those areas which seem to be very important in real life. Thank you so much for your time. Limelight will be coming back next Friday. Thank you so much. We've been with Kale Santos, a specialist for primary education at Uganda National Curriculum Development Center. We say we wish our kids the best, those who are joining Senior 1 and who are still in primary cycle. Thank you so much and wish you the best. Good evening.